Hey, welcome back to the channel for a brand new episode. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about state and binding. So first of all, what is it? Okay, so state management is something every developer has to deal with in application development. Imagine that you are developing a music player app. When a user taps the play button, the button will change itself to a stop button, okay? So in your implementation, there must be some ways to keep track of the application state so that you know when to change the button's appearance, okay? So in SwiftUI, it comes with a few built-in features for state management. In particular, it introduces a property wrapper named addState, okay? When you annotate a property with addState, SwiftUI automatically stores it somewhere in your application. What's more, views that make use of that property automatically listen to the value change of the property, okay? So when the state changes, SwiftUI will recompute those views and update the application's appearance, okay? Anyway, you will get a better understanding of state and binding after going through the coding example in this lesson, okay? So in today's lesson, we're going at the end of this course, create this brilliant application where each time when you press on one of these buttons, okay, it sums up here the value of these three buttons. So as you can see, it works perfectly, and each time I press on the button, the value of the button changes, okay? Cool. So let's start with a simple example that I just described earlier to see how to switch between a play button and a stop button, okay, by keeping track of the application state. First, fire up Xcode and create a new project using the app template, okay? This one. Set the name of the project to whatever you want, okay? I'm going to call it SwiftUI, okay? SwiftUI state en, okay? But you're free, as said before, to use any other name. Please make sure that SwiftUI is selected for the interface option here, okay? Then you can save the project on your Mac, okay? It's like that. And once you save the project, Xcode should load the content view.swift file and display a preview in the design canvas, okay? So sometimes it can take a few minutes, so don't worry. First of all, you're going to select -12, okay? Then press on resume. Okay, perfect. Now that we have our canvas, okay, we can now create the play button like this. So here, button just like that, okay? Then write action, okay? Open curly brackets, okay? Here, put another pair of curly brackets, okay? Perfect. And here, as said before, we will write the code to switch between the play and stop buttons, okay? Okay, it's like that. Whereas here we're going to create the button, okay? So image, system name, you will write play.circle.fill, okay? Okay, here font will be system, this one, okay? The size will be 150, and finally the color will be, foreground color will be, for instance, red, okay? Cool, perfect. So we make use of the system image here and paint the button in red. So the button's action is now empty. What we want to do is change its appearance from play to stop when someone taps the button, okay? The color of the button should also be changed to green when the stop button is displayed. Okay, so how can we implement that? Obviously we need a variable to keep track of the button state. Let's name it isPlaying, for instance. Okay, it will be a Boolean variable indicating whether the app is in the playing state or not. Okay, if it's set to true, the app should show a stop button. Conversely, the app shows a play button. Okay, so the code can be written like this. So here you can write private var is playing, okay, is equal to false at the beginning. Okay, and then here we can ask, depending on the value of that variable, okay, stop.circle.fill, okay, just like that. And we can do the same here. Okay, so first of all check the value of this variable, and then write this line. Okay, so we changed the image name and color by referring to the value of the isPlaying variable. If you update the code in your project, you should see a play button in the preview canvas. Okay, however, if you set the default value of isPlaying to true, you will see a stop button. Okay, now the question is, how can the app monitor the change of the state, okay, and update the button automatically? So with SwiftUI, all you need to do is prefix the isPlaying property with add state, okay, just like that. So here, add state. Okay, once we declare the property as a state variable, SwiftUI manages the storage of isPlaying and monitor its value change. Okay, when the value of isPlaying changes, SwiftUI automatically recomputes the views that are referencing the isPlaying state. Okay, here it's the button. Okay, we still haven't implemented the buttons action, so modify the code like this. So here what we can write is self isPlaying, okay, dot toggle. In the action closure, we call the toggle method to toggle the Boolean value from false to true or from true to false. Okay, now run the app by clicking the play icon in the preview canvas. Okay, and try to toggle between the play and stop button. Okay, cool. As you can see, it works perfectly. Okay, so now we're going to create a counter button which shows the number of taps. Whenever a user taps the button, the counter will increase by 1 and display the total number of taps. Okay, so that means that we need another state variable. Okay, just like that. Okay, and at the beginning the value will be a 1. Okay, so this one we can delete it, and actually we're going to change our code here. So for instance, these lines are not necessary anymore. We can write rather this one. Okay, here I'm going to delete the image. Okay, and rather write circle, just like that, frame. Okay, width will be 200, height will be 200 as well. Okay, foreground color will be red. Okay, and the overlay will be a text. Okay, just like that, anti-slash, and then you can write counter. Okay, then here give some modifiers. Okay, this one. Okay, this one. Okay, with a size of 100, a weight of bold, and here a rounded value. Okay, cool. And finally, foreground color will be white. Okay, it's like that. You can press on resume. So instead of declaring a Boolean variable as a state, we use an integer state variable to keep track of the count. When the button is tapped, the counter will increase by 1. Okay, as you can see, it works smoothly, perfectly. Nice. Okay, now we will further modify the code to display 3 counter buttons. Okay, all the 3 buttons share the same counter. Okay, no matter which button is tapped, the counter will increase by 1, and all the buttons will be invalidated to display the updated count. Okay, so the first thing you might think of is to embed this button in a VStack. Okay, and then simply copy paste this button twice, okay, in order to get 3 buttons. So here I'm going to give it a blue value, and here I'm going to give it a green value. Okay, cool. Okay, perfect. And as you can see, every time that I tap on one of these 3 buttons, the value of the 3 buttons, the values of the 3 buttons change. Okay, but rather than copy paste this button template so many times, there is another way to do things properly. So I'm going to delete these 3 buttons. Okay, and now I'm rather going to create a structure. Okay, it's like that. Okay, so it's gonna be counter button to be type of view. Okay, and here you can write add binding. Okay, var counter to be type of int. It's like that. Okay, then have a color variable to be type of color. Okay, then give it a body. It's like that. And here we can simply cut this button and put it here. So the counter button can now be easily used here. Okay, like that. Counter button. Okay, dollar counter, and here for instance. So you should notice that the counter variable is annotated with at binding. Okay, and when you create a counter button instance here, then the counter is prefixed by a dollar sign. Okay, so what do they mean? After we extract the button into a separate view, counter button, okay, here becomes a subview of content view. The counter increment is now done in the counter button view instead of the content view. The counter button must have a way to manage the state variable in the content view. Okay, so the binding keyword indicates that the caller must provide the binding of the state variable. By doing so, it's just like creating a two-way connection between the counter in the content view and the counter in the counter button. Okay, so updating counter in the counter button here, view propagates its value back to the counter state in the content view here. Okay, so what's this dollar sign? In SwiftUI, you use the dollar prefix operator to get the binding from a state variable. Okay, if you understand how binding works, you can continue to create the other 2 buttons and align them vertically using a VStack. So here, embed in VStack. Okay, then simply copy paste this line twice. Okay, and change the colors here to green and blue for instance. Okay, and rather here you have to change it to color, this one. Okay, cool. So after the changes, you can run the app just like me to test the app. Okay, tapping any of the buttons will increase the count by 1 for all of them. Okay, so presently all the buttons share the same count. Now what we're going to do, we're going to create this design. Okay, let me show you. Okay, with one counter here and 3 separate counters below that you can sum up to have the final total value here. Okay, so first of all we have to create 3 values. Okay, so here, here and here we have 3 different counters. Okay, so what we can do is to write here counter 1. Okay, then state private var counter 2 is equal to 0, and we're going to say that at the beginning all of them are equal to 0. Okay, then state private var counter 3. Okay, what we're going to do is to change this counter values. Okay, it's like that. Okay, put them in a add stack. Okay, it's like that. Okay, and here create a text. Okay, just like that. Okay, and here we will say that it sums up our 3 counter, then plus counter 2 plus counter 3. Okay, just like that. Here font 150. Okay, here it's gonna be bold and here it's gonna be rounded. Okay, cool. And then here we can also change the values to reduce them. Just like that. Okay, cool. And as you can see now, we have 3 counters. Okay, and this one actually it's just a text. Okay, that sums up the value of these 3 buttons. Okay, so as you can see, it works perfectly. Every time I press on any button, the value of the button changes as well. Okay, so that's all for today's guys. Thank you very much for watching this episode. Okay, stay tuned, give it a thumbs up, and I see you in the next lesson, guys. Bye bye, take care.